UFC Fight Night, Imavov taking on Borralho. This is the weigh-in recap. We're going to take a look at each fighter after they, weighed in on the scale, see how they rehydrated, check out the face-offs, give you guys my final picks and predictions for each fight. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe to the channel, and let's get straight into the video. So we did end up having, a fight cancellation with KEITA and PITBULL, because KEITA came in about 4 pounds over, 3 or 4 pounds over 149. Kind of really, not the way you should be making your UFC debut. He did post, an apology. Patricio Pitbull was not, very keen to it. Ended up calling him Fat Panther. I'm kind of tight that this fight is off the card. I messed up one of the plays. And I think Pitbull was possibly going to win this fight. Him missing weight kind of, leans more into how I was feeling anyway. But fight is ultimately canceled. Pitbull's trying to get on the UFC Rio card next month, October 11th. I think he called out Arnold Allen. Marquisio Costa also said he's down to fight him. So we'll see what the UFC ends up doing with Pitbull. For KEITA, though, nasty way to start your career, man. I don't think the UFC is very lenient on weight misses. We just saw, Brian Battle. He just got signed to PFL, but he missed weight back to back, and they clipped him pretty fast. And he was, I think he was like 7-1 in the UFC. So KEITA's gonna have to dial it in, man, and make weight. But let's get straight to the first fight of the night. BANNON taking on Sam Hughes. I am locking Sam Hughes as the pick. I do believe. I'll do this after. I thought I was, going to be able to do it live, but I'll do this after. But yeah, I do believe, her ability to close the gap, wrestle, control BANNON is going to be pretty evident. I don't believe in BANNON striking from range. I know she throws up, a couple of kicks here and there. Her little blitzes don't really impress me either. She doesn't have a lot of power on her shots. We just saw her almost get knocked out by Pusha Tomar, and she got the, comeback submission victory over a low IQ fighter in Pusha Tomar. And I picked Pusha Tomar in that fight. She almost got the knockout. It is what it is. I did say that she hit harder than BANNON, and that was on display. But Sam Hughes, I know this is her first time being a favorite. A lot of people are, fading her because of that. But I don't think she's going to look bad in this fight at all. I think it's going to be a pretty dominant decision. 29-28 probably, but I don't see BANNON having much success. Maybe like the first few exchanges, she stays at range and Sam Hughes is unable to, time the kicks. But after midway in the first round, I see Sam Hughes getting her up against the cage, controlling her, taking her down, and doing what she does best. So give me Sam Hughes, Sam Page to win this fight by decision. And like I said, pretty convincingly as well. Let's get to the scales. We got Sam Page over here on the right, looking pretty good. 116, no issues, made weight, looks pretty cut up as well. And then we got BANNON on the other side. You can see she's a little less muscular, but made weight, no issues. I think before she had blonde eyebrows. I don't know if she changed it or not, but anyway, let's get to the ceremonials. Here is Sam Hughes. Here comes the Crimson Chin. I don't think BANNON is catching her and putting her out. I think that chin has been tested before. I don't think BANNON is going to be the one to, clip it either. Here's BANNON walking out. Got the Ireland flag, excuse me. Here's the face-off. Yeah, I think Sam Page is going to not necessarily mop the floor with her, but handle her pretty easily, fairly easy. So give me Sam Hughes to win this fight in a decision, 3-round, boring fight. Next fight up, FAKHREDINOV taking on Andreas Gustafsson. I think Gustafsson wins this fight. I think he's live for a late finish or a decision. But looking at the styles, it's hard. I understand people picking Renat because he's the more refined mixed martial artist. He's the better striker, the better kickboxer. Does like to fight at range, but it's hard to pick against Andreas Gustafsson when a dude is just going to walk through whatever you're bringing to him and smother the space that you think you're going to have, just get in your face and unload on you. He's going to take you down. If he doesn't take you down, he's going to put you up against the cage and make it very dirty, very nasty. And that really wears down on you. That gas tank, the pressure, it's a lot, man. And I really see him, going to the same game plan that he had with Khaos Williams, who has a lot more power than Rinat Fakhretdinov. Maybe not as clean on the in the striking, but definitely has the power over Rinat. But I just think Gustafsson's going to be able to, walk through pretty much anything that Rinat is going to throw at him. I don't see Rinat having success in the takedowns either. Gustafsson is pretty strong. If you don't know, he used to be a power lifter. I think he cut from like 250 pounds, and now he's, weighing in at 171. He's a pretty strong guy. I see him taking Rinat down a couple of times within this fight. I think, getting him up against the cage, beating the body up, it's something that he's really going to do. The knees, the elbows have always been nasty. We saw the finish on the contender series against Pat Pitlick, and then, we saw how he handled Khaos Williams. I think he's going to look fairly impressive, and, it's not a style that a lot of people are a fan of, but it's definitely one that can, pay the bill. So give me Andreas Gustafsson. I think he's live for a late finish, but I'll go decision as the official pick. Here they are on the scales. Here's Andreas. Dude is jacked. Definitely looks, like a loaded 171 pounder. Definitely probably rehydrated to about 180, somewhere around there. Where is Rinat? Think over here. Definitely, slightly or clearly less muscular than Gustafsson, but I mean, this is how he's always looked. I want to know how old is Rinat, because he looks pretty old. He's only 33, which is kind of surprising. He definitely looks like the older man. Here is the ceremonials. He definitely looks like he's damn near in his 50s. Here is Gustafsson. Dude is shredded. Here's the face-off. Towards the end, Gustafsson actually kissed Rinat kissed Gustafsson on the forehead. They're pretty friendly. They met prior to the media day, I think, and they took a picture together. So no beef between them coming into this fight. But I do see Gustafsson, doing what he does best and going full retard and just winning this fight. So give me Andreas Gustafsson decision, but a late finish would not surprise me either. Next fight up, we got Brad Tavares taking on Robert BRYCZEK. The pick is Brad Tavares. However, I'm thinking about introducing, this is a perfect time for me to say it, because this is one of the fighters that I was thinking about with this new little segment that I'm thinking about introducing called Parlay Busters. Now, I am picking Brad Tavares, but I would not put him on a parlay. You saw I didn't put him on any of the parlays that we had. I think Brad Tavares could be a parlay buster. Yes, he's more well-rounded. Yes, he's the better mixed martial artist. Yes, he's been in the UFC for a while. He's fought, everybody. But BRYCZEK does present some power on the feet. His boxing is, not necessarily high level, but he is a power striker, and that could present some problems for Brad Tavares, who has been knocked out before. So I wouldn't, if you guys are putting Brad Tavares in your parlays because you see, oh, he's a minus 250, whatever, the line is right now, I wouldn't do it. I think he is a candidate for a parlay buster. So, maybe we'll see how this card goes. If I'm right about him and the other fighter that I'm thinking about, then maybe it's a new segment that I'm going to introduce called Parlay Busters. But as of right now, Brad Tavares is on Parlay Buster watch. So I am picking Brad. I'm not super confident in it, because if he does get clipped by one of these shots, I can definitely see him getting hurt. And, when I've seen Brad Tavares get hurt, his game plan changes. He tries to brawl with guys, and that's not something I would like to see him do against a powerful striker in BRYCZEK, who has been out for a year. Yes, I know he was nursing an injury, but it could have, changed his game plan. He could have implemented more things rather than just relying on his striking. What if he turns into a wrestler now? You never know. So I'm going with Brad. Not super confident in it, but that is the pick. Let's get to the scales. Where is one of these guys? Here is BRYCZEK. Dude is jacked. He's loaded. He got abs on abs on abs on abs. Can't really say too much about him. Let's see if we could get to Brad. We got like 6 pages of pictures, but I'm trying to speed through them for you guys. Yeah. Here's Brad. Brad's always been pretty good condition too. Trains out there in Hawaii. I think I've seen him walking around one time. I used to live in Hawaii a couple years ago. But yeah, Brad, he looks pretty good on the scales as well. Here is the ceremonials. Here's BRYCZEK repping the Polish flag, the Polish power. Definitely does have it. It's just, does he land the strike? It's not a matter of, when, or it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when in this fight for me. Here's Brad, looks pretty good. UFC vet, does what he does best. Here's the face off. BRYCZEK definitely got the, the wider back. You can definitely see the power in his shoulders. It's going to be a tall task for Brad. I think he can win. I think he should win, but if BRYCZEK connects, man, it could be nasty. And like I said, Brad Tavares is on Parlay Buster watch, but I'm going with Brad as the official pick. Next fight, we got Sam, the future Patterson, taking on Trey, the Truth Waters. I'm sticking with my pick. I'm going with Sam Patterson. I think he's going to be able to employ the wrestling, the grappling, which is much better than Trey Waters, who I've seen taken down. And I believe his finishes in the regional scene, if I'm not mistaken, have been, or amateur, yes, have been 2 submissions. Yeah, got subbed here in 2017, subbed here in 2016. And even his wrestling his wrestling defense, takedown defense in the UFC doesn't look that great. I know he defended, Quinlan's takedowns, I think 1 or 2 of them, but he did get taken down, was able to get back to his feet. But Patterson is way slicker on the mat than a Josh Quinlan. Billy Ray Goff, I believe, took him down as well. Sam Patterson is a lot cleaner on the mat than a Billy Ray Goff. Sam Patterson, I do think, could have a speed advantage in the striking. I know he also has a reach advantage, but Trey Waters is definitely better off the back foot and with the jab. So the striking could get interesting. I think Sam will mix it up with him, and I see him closing the gap, trying to get him up against the cage, taking him down, and, employ the grappling for him to win this fight. But I am going with Sam Patterson. I do have a lot of confidence in him, and I think, he's the more skilled fighter in this fight. Could be a submission, could be, a decision, but I am going with Sam Patterson to win on scorecards. We'll go Sam Patterson scorecards. And here's Trey Waters. I was not necessarily nervous about him making weight. I just wanted to see how he would look on the scales. He looks better than I've seen him in the past. I can say, looking at him here on the scale again. So, do with that as you will. Didn't really look like much of a hard weight cut for him. And here's Sam. Sam looks pretty good. Sam looks really good on the scale. He looks really good. Came in 170, and Trey came in at 171. Here is Trey at the ceremonials. Definitely looks to be the more muscular of the two. You remember, he is 6'5", slightly taller than Sam, but it doesn't really look like he's that much taller when you see the face off. Here's Sam. He's in great shape, definitely phenomenal shape. And like I said, I think he's gonna have a little bit of a speed advantage in the striking. I think he can strike in between Trey Waters' long shots, and that can cause a lot of problems. I can see him mixing up probably like a straight 2 to the body, throwing a hook, and then shooting for a takedown, and Trey unable to defend that properly because his hands are, like I told you before, his hands are always at his hips. I can see Sam timing something pretty clean. Here's the face off. You can see that, the height doesn't look that significant when, looking at it on paper. I do think Sam Patterson gets it done. I think he's going to win by decision, employing more different skill sets in this fight. So give me Sam Patterson to win. And I think he's a pretty solid pick of mine as well. Next fight on the card, we got Fernandes versus Harry Houdini Hardwick. Hey man, look, going with Fernandes, really confident in him. Harry Hardwick has a huge head. I don't think Kawhi's going to be missing a lot of shots. I think the speed is going to be there for him. His accuracy is pretty good. The low kicks are pretty fast and pretty hard. I think Kawhi is live for a finish. I wouldn't bet on it, but I do think he is live for one. Harry stepping in on short notice didn't really look that good on the scale either. I think Fernandes is going to style on him, and this is a much less harder matchup for him compared to the Fares Ziam fight. Definitely I was picking Fares Ziam until he pulled out, And, Hardwick, I'm not impressed with what he brings. Maybe we'll see what he looks like, on a full camp against a different style opponent. But I am going with Kyle Fernandez to win this fight. Like I said, he could be live for a finish or just, a 3-round kickboxing karate-esque style performance. Here they are on the scales. Here's Kawe. Kind of look a little confused. A lot of these fighters, they kind of act like they didn't know what to do on the scale. You step on the scale, you weigh in, and you're supposed to pose for 5 seconds. A lot of guys were stepping on the scale and just walking off. I don't know if they, this is their first time fighting. Obviously, it's not in the UFC at least. But, yeah, a lot of them didn't know. Maybe it was because, they were over in Paris, and there is a certain female that normally, hey, whoever the fighters on the scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, she wasn't there. So maybe that kind of threw them off a little bit. It is what it is. But, yeah. Here's Kaiway, looks pretty solid on the scale. Here's Harry, like I said, didn't really look impressive on the scale. Pretty, his head is huge, man. He got like an airhead, the shape of like a balloon. His head is huge. I think Kaiway is going to be connecting pretty cleanly on that head. Here they are on the scales. Here's Kaiway. I'm telling you, his speed is, something to definitely be noticed, and it was on full display against Kuta Delije last time out. Here's Harry. I mean, salute to him for stepping in. That's about all I can say. Here's the face-off. He turned his body to do, to stand off with Kawe, but his head stayed the same. I'm telling you, Kawe is gonna clean him up for 2 or 3 rounds, maybe even knock him out. So give me Kawe Fernandez to win. I'll go ahead and say he finishes him. I'll say he finishes him. So yeah. Has Harry been knocked out before? No, never been knocked out. Only been subbed. Maybe, man. Short notice, you never know. I'm going with Kawe. Kawe by decision. We'll go Kawe by decision. Next fight, we got Marcin TYBURA taking on Ante DELIJA, who I think, in my opinion, big dogged him at the face-offs. But, I am going with Ante. I've never been a fan of Marcin TYBURA. He is on a 2-fight win streak. Stop Joe Nante Deniz. A lot of people think this is how the fight is going to play out, but I don't see it, looking like that. Beat McParkin on a fight where McParkin was looking pretty successful, even taking, Marcin TYBURA down. I think Ante DELIJA is just too much of an animal. I think he's going to walk forward and bully Marcin TYBURA. I think his striking, the power is there. I think he's going to walk down Marcin TYBURA and just really big dog him, really. Is slightly taller, looks to be in better physical condition, I would also say. And I think DELIJA is just going to rip something big early, and I can see TYBURA, tipping over. Like I said, could see him getting knocked out, similar to how Tom Aspinall sat him down. I don't think DELIJA is Tom Aspinall level, but I believe he does train with Tom Aspinall, or it might be Modestus. But I know DELIJA is training with. I might be right. I think he is training with Tom, for this fight, or at least for this camp. And who knows? Maybe some of that, knockout dust rubbed off on him, and we're getting another knockout from Marcin TYBURA. He is damn near 40 years old. I don't see him putting together 3 wins in a row. I know Jared Cannonier damn near did it. I believe he did do it. And then he, fought. I think that was right before he fought Imavov. He was on like a 3-fight win streak. But I don't see Marcin TYBURA, climbing back up the rankings. I think DELIJA is here, gonna make his statement. I've, been flippy floppy on debuting guys, but I think DELIJA is one of the guys that I can have some faith in. So give me Ante DELIJA to win. I'm going knockout. Here they are on the scales. Here is TYBURA. He just looks big. He looks pretty massive. That's all I can really say. I think he came in 256, and DELIJA down at the bottom came in around 240, 239. That when you see the face-offs, you'll see how much larger he looks face to face. Here he is. I think he's gonna have the better cardio out of the two. I think he'll be able to rip some big shots to the body too, setting up something over the top. And I see TYBURA crumbling. I'm telling you. I know he's been in there with some, with the best of the best, but I think DELIJA is just a different animal. and I expect him to stamp his debut. Need some more heavyweight competition. Here's TYBURA. Like I said, did not look impressive on the scale at all. He's just a huge dude, huge head, huge body. But I don't think he's going to implore, that grappling game plan against DELIJA. I think DELIJA's takedown defense is pretty solid. I think his wrestling is pretty solid as well. So I think they're going to cancel each other out on the mat. Maybe if TYBURA could get to, if he can get him down after a scramble and get to, full mount, maybe it could be a little bit of trouble for DELIJA because he is pretty nasty on the ground. We saw the elbows that he was landing on Deniz, but I think DELIJA is just going to be a little too quick on the feet for TYBURA to do that. So give me DELIJA. I think he's going to knock out, and I think he's going to make the best of his debut. Excuse me. Next fight, we got Umar C taking on Brenderson RIBEIRO. Sorry, hold on. Let me go back to the card because I want to make sure that I didn't do. Okay, yeah. Still thinking about that parlay buster. This isn't the fight though. Umar C versus Brenderson RIBEIRO. I am picking Umar C. I think he's going to look a lot better than, the fight against Alonzo Menifield. I know Alonzo Menifield and Brenderson RIBEIRO are both powerful strikers. Brenderson RIBEIRO is more, I think he's a little bit, I guess him and Alonzo are both equally wild, but Brenderson will overextend himself on shots, whereas Alonzo is, hook city. I think Umar is going to be able to time some of the shots that Brenderson RIBEIRO throws, tie him up, take him down, and, maybe find a submission, maybe find a TKO. But I just think he's going to be the better athlete. I think he's going to be the better mixed martial artist. And I don't think Brenderson RIBEIRO is going to pull off another, prospect finish. I think Umar C, took his loss. The one, or his first loss, he's gonna learn from it, and him being back, in his hometown, he looked pretty amped in front of the crowd. I don't think he's gonna disappoint. I think him and the other, there's a couple French fighters, but him and William Gomis, who we'll get to when we get to, I think they're both going to show out in front of their fans. So give me Umar C to win. Inside the Distance is live. Decision is also live, but most of Brenderson's losses have been knockouts. I think he's been knocked out 4 times. Yeah, 4 times. Once, twice. Yeah, twice in the UFC. So, I mean, it could happen. You never know. I could see Umar again on top of him, taking his back even. It could be one of those situations. Club and sub, TKO. Who knows? Let's get to them on a scale. Here's Umar. Dude is huge, man. I saw him at UFC Atlanta when he faced off with Alonzo Menifield. He made Alonzo look like a welterweight. So this guy is, he's pretty tall. He's pretty solid too. Looks pretty good on the scales. 205. Here's Brenson, came in at 206. He looked pretty good as well. But I just think Umar's that grappling, the wrestling, I think is going to tire him out, and he's eventually going to get him down. Here's the face off. Here's Brenson. Definitely a lot leaner of the two. But yeah, here's Umar. Like I said, the dude's ripped. He's gigantic. And here's the face off. I think Umar's going to be able to tie him up, man, take him down, and have a lot of success on the mat. So I'm going with Umar C. I think he gets it done. We'll go sub. I can see him doing like a neck crank, or maybe even maybe he gets a choke. Either a choke or a neck crank, one of those type of submissions. Yeah, Umar C to get it done by sub. Next fight, moving on to the main card. If you haven't already, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. We got William Jaguar Gomis taking on Robert RUCHALA, not RUCHALA. I'm going with Gomis. Like I said, I was not impressed with anything that I saw from RUCHALA. I think he's going to be there to get hit. I know I said the KSW cage was larger, but it's actually not. It just looks that way because there's not the, it doesn't have the angles that an octagon has. It's just a circle. But he was, able to just run around the entire circle, mat, whatever you want to call it. I don't think he's going to have the ability to do that against Gomis. I think Gomis is going to hunt him down, close the cage off, touch him up, sting him from outside, maybe even employ some wrestling. But ultimately, I think Gomis is just too tactical for RUCHALA, who his primary striking game is just kicks. I think Gomis is going to be able to see a lot of those coming, close the distance if he needs to, and just pick them apart from distance. So give me Jaguar to get back on a another win streak. I know he lost to Hyder Emil. Very close fight. Hyder did pressure him a lot, but I don't see that style in RUCHALA. Or RUCHALA having the same success that Hyder Emil did. Hyder Emil is, a different animal. We just saw him get knocked out by Jose Delgado a couple months ago too. So it's not about, who you fight. It's about where you fight them, how you fight them. And, Gomis did fight Hyder Emil in a small cage. So that cage definitely benefited Hyder Emil rather than William Gomis. Gomis is meant for a larger cage. And I think he's going to, look like the better tactical striker in this matchup. So give me Gomis. Here they are on scales. Looked really good. Definitely looked a lot more physically conditioned for the weight cut this time. Last time when he fought Hyder Emil, he definitely looked a lot more sucked out, even on the scale. So maybe that played into, that fight as well. No excuses though. But yeah, definitely looks a lot better on the scale, I would say. And RUCHALA is on the other page. Oh, my bad. Here is RUCHALA. Looks good. May weight, no issues. Let's get to the face-offs. Here's RUCHALA, another Polish fighter. I think there's like 3 of them on this card. May weight, no issues. 156, I believe. Or excuse me, 146. Here's Gomis. Definitely looks, like I said, way better. Rehydrated, conditioned. Looks prepared. Here's the face-off. Gomis slightly taller. Looks to be more muscular as well. I think he's going to look like a tactician in there. I think he's going to pick RUCHALA apart and give him his welcome to the UFC moment. So give me William the Jaguar Gomis to win by decision. Next fight, we got Axel Sola taking on Rhys McKee. Axel Sola's a lot taller than I thought he was. But I am picking Rhys McKee. I think Rhys McKee is live for a knockout. Axel Sola darts in, darts out, does not move, what is it? Side to side. I was trying to think of the word. His head is always on the center line. Rhys McKee, very long arms. I think he's going to be able to, set up a big shot, catch him over the top. Maybe even it could be a straight 2 that does it because, like I said, Axel Sola does not move his head. It is a little bit faster, but I think round 2, I think, that gas tank is going to wane a little because, he is a former lightweight moving up to 170. He's never really fought at this weight. So we'll see how that gas looks in the second round. I think he's going to come out first round definitely a lot faster, probably landing some good shots to the body, maybe even some pretty solid kicks, hitting the low kicks. But I think Rhys McKee, he's pretty durable. I think he'll be able to survive. Well, not survive, but I think he'll be able to hang in there in the first round. I don't think the speed from Sola is going to deter him from engaging at all. That second round, I see Rhys McKee being on the pressure, walking him down, and catching him with a big shot. So I'm going with Rhys McKee by TKO, and I think he gets it done, putting together a 2-fight win streak in the UFC. Here is Rhys looking pretty solid on the scale. May weight, no issues. 170, I believe. And here's Sola. May weight, he looks really good. I gotta admit, he looks really, really good on the scale for his UFC debut. Short notice as well. Let's get to the face-offs. Here's Rhys telling the crowd to be quiet because he's about to zip they boy up in a body bag. Here's Sola. He looks, like I said, looks really good. Not sure what this is. Not questioning anything. Not sure what it is though. Maybe, got scratched or something like that. Here's a face-off. He's definitely a lot taller than I thought he was. I thought he was, I think he's listed at like 5'11". Yeah, he's listed at 5'11". Rhys is 6'2". Maybe it was the shoes or something. But that does not look like 5'11" to 6'2". It looks like 6'2" to 6'2" if you ask me. But I am going with Rhys McKee. I think he's going to be able to time something with, the low head movement from Axel Sola. I think France is going to be upset tomorrow morning, whatever time they're fighting at over there. Give me Reese McKee with another TKO. Next fight, we got Balaji Oki taking on Mason the Dragon Jones. I've been going with Balaji Oki. A lot of people are heavy on Mason Jones because of his success against Jeremy Stephens. I wasn't that impressed. I thought he should have damn near finished Jeremy Stephens, who was retired for, what, 5 years? How long was Jeremy Stephens out of the UFC? Let's see. His last UFC fight was 2021, so 4 years. And I mean, yeah, it was a unanimous decision, but it was still kind of competitive on the feet. You know, he didn't walk away untouched. He was getting touched up a little bit in that fight. So, again, I wasn't that impressed with his win over Jeremy Stephens. I know he came from Cage Warriors after, you know, getting cut by the UFC after a couple of losses. He does look better than his first stint, but I think him and Balaji Oki are pretty stylistically similar. I think Balaji is a little better from range. I think Mason Jones could have some, you know, the better exchanges in the pocket, but I think Balaji is going to be able to time something. I don't know if it's a takedown or if he cuts an angle, sets up a, you know, a power shot, because he does have some pretty powerful twos, and it's hard for a lot of guys to close distance on him. I haven't really seen anyone do it successfully. I mean, other than Chris Duncan, who took him down, and well, I believe that was a scramble, and he ended up. No, I think Balaji shot for a takedown, and he got his neck taken. But Kawamba is faster than Mason Jones, and he didn't really have a lot of success closing the distance. He just was able to outwork Balaji. I don't think Mason Jones puts out that much output to outwork Balaji. I think both of them have like a similar output. Michael Aswell, who's also a featherweight, who fought Balaji at lightweight, he pretty much got picked apart for the entire fight. So I mean, he's doing what he's supposed to do. Yes, it doesn't look as good as it should, you know, in the UFC, but he's fighting, I would say at this point, better guys than a Jeremy Stephens on a return. So I'm going with Balaji Oki. I'm not really sure why he's the underdog, but I'll take him at plus money. I think he's gonna look a lot better than he did, you know, against Chris Duncan, against Michael Aswell. Michael Aswell was also a short notice replacement because he was supposed to fight Markel Medeiros. So I think I was picking Medeiros there, and I ended up picking Balaji Oki versus Aswell. But I think Oki's going to look good. I think it's going to be a decision. Could be a close fight, though. So give me Oki by decision. Here is Oki on scales. Looks really good. Really cut up, really muscular. Got the blonde hair again. Here's Mason Jones looking like, who's the actor that played the guy with the arrow from Guardians of the Galaxy? That's what he looks like. He was in a couple of other movies too. Really good. I think he was in that zombie movie. I forgot his name, but yeah, that's what he looks like. Here is the. Oh, we got it out of order. Hold on now. Here they are on the scales. Mason looks pretty solid. Balaji looks a lot better. Here is the face-off. I'm going with Balaji. I think it's going to be a pretty close, interesting fight, though. I think it could, you know, predict how both of these guys' careers are going to go. So, pretty interesting fight in the lightweight division. Not significant to the division, but just interesting to see where, you know, both of these guys go. I am going with Balaji to win by decision, though. Next fight, we got Modestas Bukauskas taking on Paul Craig. The pick has been Modestas Bukauskas, but ring, again, parlay buster alert. I think Modestas Bukauskas is live to sell in this fight. Pretty heavy favorite. I know he's going to be the better striker. He definitely should knock out Paul Craig, but I just have a weird scenario playing out where he drops Paul Craig ties up his leg after he tries to close the distance and gets submitted. So he should knock him out. He should either knock him out or win by decision, you know, picking at him and staying at distance. But I just had this weird scenario playing in my head where Paul Craig just gets the comeback submission that he needed to stay in the UFC, and, you know, parlay buster alert. So I got Modestas and Brad Tavares on parlay buster alert. we'll see how successful I am with, picking both of them. If, one hits, one doesn't, at least I gave you that opportunity to even think about it. But a lot of people are running with Modestas to win, knockout, or decision. I would love to pick him here. I know he's surging to the rankings, but I don't know, man. I just have this weird scenario playing out where he gets subbed. So Modestas Bukauskas to win, decision or TKO, but there's a little bit of fear in me, I have to admit. Let's get to the scales. Modestas looks good as always. 205, may weight, no issues. Looks a lot more cut up as well. And one thing to mention, he does train with Tom Aspinall, so I know his grappling is pretty solid as well. His takedown defense, I would say. His jiu-jitsu is another thing. I know he did finish Prachnio by submission. I believe that was in the 3rd round, but I don't know, man. Paul Craig, he's 1-1 on the mat. I would love to see Paul Craig versus not necessarily like a Craig Jones, but somebody over there in the jiu-jitsu world that's pretty good. See, how elite he is. I know he's pretty solid off of his back. His guard play, when he's on top, I haven't really seen him employ a lot of submissions from top, more so off of his back. So, like I said, it could be a situation where he gets dropped, and Modestas falls right into the trap. I'm not going for it, man. Parlay buster alert. Here they are at the ceremonials. Paul Craig, he does his thing. Face paint, rips the shirt. It's already pre-cut, if you don't know, because at UFC Atlanta, he was struggling to rip that shirt, and we know why. Got to pre-cut it, brother, man. Them Venom shirts are pretty good quality, not just ripping that off the whim. Here's Modestas. Modestas, yes. Looks pretty good. May weight, like I said, no issues. Pretty cut up. Here's a face-off. Paul Craig's going to get in everybody's face and end up pulling guard. So it is what it is. Modestas is the pick. Not 100% sold on it, though. Parlay buster alert number 2. Moving on to the co-main event of the evening and the lock of the week. Mauricio Rufy taking on Benoit Saint Denis. I'm going with Rufy by TKO. If you don't know already, that is the lock of the week, plus 115. I think Rufy is just too skilled of a striker against a Benoit Saint Denis who also does not move his head, who walks forward, who's trying to close the distance and employ his, wrestling. I don't see him tying Rufy up at all, honestly. I think Rufy's going to knock him out in the first round, under 1.5 first round, either or. I think Rufy's just going to hit him with something big. Could be even early. Could be under a minute. You know what I'm saying? That's how nasty his striking is. Benoit does not move his head at all. His striking is pretty basic. I know he does throw a lot of power, but Rufy's, his movement is just way too slick. I don't see him getting caught by anything from Benoit. I don't see him getting tied up. I see him letting go something, and Benoit is face first on the mat. So Rufy, TKO, don't really need to break it down any further. I'm not sold on Benoit Saint Denis. I would like to see him versus like Michael Chandler. That would have been a better situation for him where he could have been a favorite. And maybe I would have took a shot on Michael Chandler. But him versus Rufy, this is just a setup for Rufy to, step into the rankings and get matched up with another interesting TKO possible fight. But I am going Rufy by knockout. I think it's the only way this fight plays out. 9 times out of 10, Rufy knocks out Benoit Saint Denis. And I'm going with it here. So, Rufy, KO. Let's get to the scales. Here's Benoit. Always looks good on the scale. Got to respect him. Served over there in the French army. Respect his service and all that. But I think he's going out. Here's Rufy. Looking really good on the scale as well. Looks a lot more cut up than before. Let's get to the face-offs. Here's Rufy. Soaking it in. Had a lot of fans out there in Paris as well. Didn't really hear a lot of boos. He's a fan favorite because the way he finishes fights, and I see him finishing this one as well. There's Benoit letting out the war cry with the French flag behind him. Here's the face-off. Telling you now, Rufy's going to put him out before that first bell is over. Rufy, TKO, round 1. Next fight on the card. Main event of the evening. If you haven't already, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. I'm going Kyle Borralho. Kyle Borralho versus Nasruddin Imavov. I think Kyle's going to be able to mix it up a lot better. He's better from range. Imavov struggles with guys who can use the range properly. I know he caught Adesanya, but Adesanya made a mistake. Had, got his eye poked and was like, nah, bro, I'm cool. Imavov was able to close the distance, similar to how Poetan was able to do that against Jamal Hill off of a foul. Even though he was the one that got fouled, he was able to, step closer, close distance, and let the shot go. Imavov didn't step, after he poked Izzy, but that just stuck that, it kept them in that same position. And Imavov, closed the distance immediately after the small break and caught Izzy with the shot. I don't see him having that success against Kyle. I think Imavov's striking is going to look pretty good. I think there is going to be possibilities for him, or there is going to be moments where he does, have Borralho backing up and probably, stinging him up against the cage. But Borralho also will always have the wrestling and the grappling in his back pocket. Sure, he's not the greatest wrestler in the, middleweight division, but him having the ability to take the fight there is something that's going to trouble Nasruddin Imavov. I know I mentioned the Brendan Allen fight, but there's other fights where Imavov was taken down as well. Struggled against Roma DELIJA, struggled against Joaquin Buckley momentarily. I know he looked pretty good in the fight, but there was a couple of moments where Buckley looked pretty good as well. I know he lost to Sean Strickland early in his career, had some struggles against Jared Cannonier with the wrestling early. Cannonier was just tired out, slowed down, and Imavov was able to have some success. Mentioned the Brendan Allen fight already, and then you know what happened with Izzy. He tried to take down Izzy, and Izzy's takedown defense looked actually really good. Izzy actually, I believe he used a wizard and took Nasruddin down. So if Israel Adesanya is taking you down, I think Kyle Borralho could take you down. And I don't think he's going to go to it early. I think early they're going to strike. I think Kyle's going to stay at range and pick him apart, use the leg kicks, use the body kicks, jab. His jab is pretty solid. And we're going to see Nasruddin, trying to close the distance with some flurries. Maybe he lands a couple shots here and there. I do like his sneaky little uppercut, but I think Kyle's just going to be able to stay at distance for a majority of the fight and late go to the grappling. I don't see Kyle tiring out. We saw how well he looked against Jared Cannonier in his last fight. Yes, it was a year ago, and Imavov was able to fight 2 or 3 times since Kyle last fought. But there's a lot of people that's been ducking Kyle Borralho, man. He can't fight if nobody's trying to take a fight against him. But I think Kyle's gonna win this fight, man, and I think we're getting a double upset, in French, the double fighting nerds, Brazil beating the French fighters in their hometown. And I think Kyle's walking away with his hand raised. I think it's going to be a decision. I don't think Imavov is stopping him. I don't think Imavov is, it could be a close fight, but I don't think Imavov is going to have the success that a lot of people are saying that he will. A lot of people just love that he's an underdog, and that's why they're picking him. But I'm going with Kyle. I think he has more tools in the game plan, and I think he's going to be able to win a decision. So give me Kyle Borralho to win at the end of the day. Here's Imavov on the scale. Look pretty good. 185, championship weight. Looks ready. Looks like he's ready to go. Where is the other fighting nerd? Here he is. Weighed in 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, however long the DDP Hamzat fight was. Championship weight there, championship weight here. He looks really good on the scale as well. Let's get to the ceremonial. Here's Kyle with the shades on. Looks really good, man. He looks really, really good. Here's Imavov soaking it in. I think this is his first headline in Paris, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I think this is the first time he's the main event in Paris. I believe it was Saint Denis the last 2 times. Here's the face-off. Both of them, whispered a couple things back to each other. Imavov took the shades off momentarily. They didn't take a picture of that. But I think Kyle is just going to be able to, stick. He will, stick to the game plan and make the fight boring and win it on the scorecards. He's not searching for the moment to, explode and get a knockout. I think he's going to, ride his game plan out, stay smart, and do what he does best and win a fight. And, he's been on a 16-fight win streak. I don't think Imavov is going to be the guy to stop him. Now, as far as the title shot goes, I don't know if he wins and gets the title shot off of this, but he can fight again. He could fight, the loser of RDR Fluffy if their fight is more impressive, and that could set him up. Or he could fight, maybe, I don't even know who, maybe he could fight a Sean Strickland. Maybe he could fight a DDP. One of those fights are there for him. So he's not too concerned with, oh, I got to get a finish. I got to get a finish. Whereas Imavov is more concerned with, I'm going to shut this guy up. I'm going to knock him out. Da, 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 da. Kyle's going to stick to the game plan. I think he wins it by decision. And, we'll find out who's fighting for the title next. Whoever it is, they're going to have a hell of a time, because Hamza with 5 rounds of cardio is a monster. But that is what I got for the weigh-in recap. Let's get to my favorite section, your favorite section, the parlays. Yes, we did have one parlay moved around because of the KEITA Pitbull fight. So instead of, the over 2.5 Oki versus Jones, Sam Patterson and Pitbull, we're going over 2.5 Oki versus Jones, Sam, Auntie, and Gustafsson to give us plus 651. So write that down if you didn't already. I'll say it again. Scrap Pitbull, basically, over 2.5 Oki versus Jones, Sam, Auntie DELIJA, Andreas Gustafsson, plus 651. I think that one is live. I think we're hitting that one. I think all these plays are live. I think we're walking away with some money in our pockets for UFC Paris, Imavov versus Borralho. That is what I got for the parlays. If you want me to, break them down one by one again, you can see them here. Take a picture if you need to. And let's get some money, man. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. Am I wrong for the main event? If you're riding with me with the lock of the week, if you like Mason Jones over Balaji Oki, if you think Axel SOLA is going to win, let me know in the comments. I'm going to put my picks on Tapology right after this video, actually, so I can start getting, credit and track. You guys can see my picks when we do the full card recap. So I'll start doing that for you guys as well, so you can see, if you don't remember my entire pick. So I'll start doing that. But yeah, let me know in the comments what you guys got to say. If you don't got nothing to say, drop a W, share the video with your friends, like, comment, subscribe. You already know what to do, and I'll catch you guys for the full card recap. Peace out.